It's 11:59 at Gun Owners Radio, and this is the Penn Patriot, music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, and another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind American lines, this is your song.
Once you master the principles of pistol marksmanship, your job is to always remain familiar with them. You can do this by performing, every now and then, wherever you may be, this simple pencil triangulation exercise. Keeping your 5 dots in a group as small or smaller than the bullseye, even, if possible, to a single dot. Meanwhile, you'll be practicing your grip, your position, your sight alignment, and trigger squeeze. What's more, it's fun.
Welcome to Gun Owners Radio. Thanks for listening. My name is Michael Schwartz. I'm your co-host. I'm also the executive director for San Diego County Gun Owners, and we have a great show in store for you. We're going to have we have a couple of different guests, and we have a lot of great information. And of course, as always, Alicia, how are you?
Hey, doing fantastic.
Fantastic. Big question, big announcement. Do you have your gun prom tickets yet? Oh no! Do you have your dress picked out?
No.
Oh my gosh!
I'm gonna get there.
Okay, we still have some time. It's May 9th.
I am leading the charge on that naughty bus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's
So,
May
May
9th. It's in Escondido at the California Center for the Performing Arts.
Correct.
You know where that is?
It's where we did the gun show.
It's where the gun show is, yeah, or was.
has been,
a couple of them.
Yep.
Beautiful venue.
Yep.
Gun Prom is back after a couple of years. If you go to gunprom.com, you can buy your tickets. You can sponsor a table. You'll see all the information you need to go. Go to gunprom.com. May 9th is when it is. So you got to buy tickets ASAP. It's going to be a good time.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be very, very, very cool. We're going to talk even more about it. So Gun Owners Radio, we're actually going to, this is mid-April, in Houston, NRA.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
The NRA convention is in Houston this year, and they have invited us to be on Media Row. So you are going to see us report from the NRA convention. Gun Owners Radio is going to be there. That'll be very, very cool. I'm very honored that they asked us to be there. So that's all really cool. Did you watch how much did you watch of the show last week, the interview with Chad Bianco?
I watched all of it in pieces, but I watched it all.
Watch it all?
Yeah.
I get a lot of feedback. There was a lot of people were very, very interested. And for the most part, there was a lot of positive feedback. Really,
Good.
People wanted to know where he stood on certain things. What are your thoughts?
I like him a lot. I mean, as far as my thoughts, I think he is what California needs.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be the wake-up call that much of California doesn't know that they need, and it needs to happen.
Well, he's endorsed by San Diego County Gun Owners.
Yep.
He's endorsed by Inland Empire Gun Owners. He's endorsed by Orange County Gun Owners. He's endorsed by CRPA. They endorsed him as their candidate for governor. I'm very impressed. I like him a lot. I've liked him for years.
Yeah.
Back when he ran for sheriff originally, I was talking about how I thought he was the way to go, particularly up in Riverside. They had a sheriff prior that just was not issuing, just sucked on CCWs.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody wanted to know about the whole kneeling thing. I think that the clarification that we helped provide is good. I think the idea that some of his opponents they're portraying him as if he somehow bowed down to BLM, where in fact that's not what happened. He went to pray with the organizers. In fact, he stood firmly there. He was right there at the front lines, and they're confusing the term bend the knee with actually taking a knee. They're obviously two different things, and people wanted to hear that clarification, and I think it's a lot more clear. I think that there are people who disagree with him politically that are trying to confuse people or trying to portray his actions as something that they were not. But he stood firm against the BLM. He also made sure that there was no riot that night. He was right there at the front lines. I think he did a great job. I think that all the people that are criticizing him watched him in the front lines of a potential riot from their living room.
Right.
So
while he was out there on the line
in the cheap seats,
Yep.
you know, congratulations. That's great. But here you had a sheriff. I don't know if I've ever seen a sheriff go to the front lines of a potential riot.
I haven't
and
either.
say, hey, let's figure this out. Let's make sure that there's, you know, we're not gonna budge. There will not be a riot. We aren't gonna let you just take over the city here.
Right.
But let's make sure that you guys still are able to protest or do whatever, but do it within the confines of the law. That's exactly what he did.
Yep.
So what part of the interview did you like best?
You know, he is looking, and he's put it out there. You know, he's put the promises out there. His stance on the roster. You know, kind of all the Second Amendment stuff that I personally care about.
Yeah.
Right. So his stance on the roster, for me, that's huge. So all the Second Amendment promises that he's making. That's what, you know, hearing that reaffirmed, hearing him putting that out there, hearing him talk about that. You know, if you say it, you got to follow through.
Yeah.
Right. And that for me was my favorite part.
Yeah, and big thanks to Mark Skoglund from Warriors Way podcast, brand new podcast. So that interview was Mark asking me to come co-host and be on their very first podcast. He's a retired sheriff's deputy, and his first guest was Sheriff Bianco.
What a way to start.
I know. I'm honored. I'll tell you, Mark Skoglund, he's a great guy. Check out his podcast, Warriors Way podcast. He's a really good dude. So I was honored that he allowed us to do that. So, all right. So today we're going to interview John Hearn. What do you know about John Hearn? Anything?
He's an instructor.
He is an instructor.
I've it's been on my to-do list to go and do the range master process with Givens, and I know that John is right up there with teaching alongside.
Yeah,
Tom.
Highly recommend it. That dude. A lot of people have a lot of respect for John Hearn.
Right.
So we're going to talk to John Hearn. We're going to talk to Desi from our Not Me program.
Correct.
Because April, there's you're teaching a bunch of classes.
I am doing a number of them. Correct.
Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
It is.
And it is the 7th anniversary of our Not Me program, our women's program. Came out in 2019. It's 2026.
7th, yeah.
So 7 years.
Doing the math, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not good at math. I'm glad you double checked me on that.
I'm a little rusty.
And then we're going to talk to, of course, Sam the gunman. I have a little bit of a twist on Stump My Nephew this week, so hopefully everybody likes it. All right, so sit tight. Check out our endorsements. By the way, if you're in San Diego, go to San Diego County Gun Owners /voter guide. If you're in Orange County, go to Orange County Gun Owners /voter guide. And if you're in Inland Empire, go to Inland Empire Gun Owners /voter guide. And don't keep it a secret. Make sure that you vote this June, and make sure that you tell everybody who to vote for by using our voter guide. Again, San Diego County Gun Owners.com /voter guide. Or just go to the websites and we'll direct you there. Make sure you see the voter guide. So, all right, without further ado, here we go. Gun Owners Radio.
When your rights are on the line and the fight gets real, you need a lawyer who knows the deal. From gun laws to courtrooms, he'll stand by you. John Dillon fights for the red, white, and blue. John Dillon defending your rights, keeping bare arms with truth and might. From GVROs to self-defense calls, Dillon Law Group, he fights for us all. When freedom's under fire, who you gonna call? Dillon Law Group, justice for all. DillonLawGP.com.
Okay, I don't know if you've heard, but there is a national story coming out of California that has to do with ballots, and it has to do with our favorite candidate for governor, Sheriff Chad Bianco. Did you hear about what happened?
I've heard.
What have you heard so far?
It's about freaking time that someone steps in and does He is.
What did he do? What year he did?
So
Because this story's moving fast.
it is. So as we all know, in the state of California, right, this whole voter ID thing, there's fraud is rampant elections, right, and he's holding the election process accountable.
What did he
Right,
do? Though? What have you heard he actually has done?
So, from what I know, he's looking back to prior elections, and he's essentially kind of requiring or asking for
grab
confirmation.
ballots.
Yeah.
He grabbed ballots.
Yeah.
Okay, so from the CNN article, California sheriff running for governor seizes more than 500,000 ballots now this is just from the 2025 election.
Right.
The 2025 election was the Prop 50 election. So that's where we voted on. It was a proposition,
Back
a
in November.
statewide proposition where we voted to redraw districts that were favorable to Democrats rather than the few Republicans that were made it. So here's from the CNN article that we have here. The article again is California sheriff running for governor seizes more than 500,000 ballots. Okay, California sheriff running for governor. Now this is CNN, so it's a little skewed here. California sheriff running for governor has seized more than 500,000 ballots cast in November's special election from county election officials saying he's investigating a ballot count discrepancy. Now, it's one important thing that we need to point out. He's not doing a recount.
Right.
Because he's a sheriff. They're investigating. So these ballots are evidence. So something was brought to his attention, and he's now investigating it. County elections officials have disputed the claims by Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, a Republican. California Attorney General Rob Bonta, a Democrat, called Bianco's move unprecedented and says it's designed to sow distrust in elections. What would be the purpose? Why would he want to do that? Like what? So, his whole defense is, he's trying to sow distrust in elections. For what purpose?
What sows distrust
What's that?
is the current process, right?
What he's investigating?
Bianco, right. That's where the distrust comes from.
Bianco held a news conference Friday saying his office had launched the investigation. This is again from the CNN article. After receiving a complaint from a local citizens group from the ballot count from a November 2025 special election on redistricting. In the special election, voters approved a measure to redraw congressional district lines to favor Democrats in the upcoming midterm election. The measure passed in the county by a margin of more than 80,000 votes. Now, here's where it starts to get meaty. Again, this is that CNN article that we're referencing. Bianco seized ballots in Riverside County, the inland California county of 2.5 million people, where he has twice been elected sheriff. He called the effort, quote, a fact-finding mission. They also call that an investigation. He's a law enforcement officer. Right. That's exactly what they do. This investigation is simple. Physically count the ballots and compare that result with the total votes reported, he said Friday. This is Bianco. Bianco is one of two prominent Republicans running for governor in a crowded June primary that includes more than half a dozen Democrats. California runs top two primary system that puts all candidates on the same ballot regardless of party, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Leading California Democrats are worried that their party has so many candidates they risk splitting. So that have anything to do. Why are they even going into that? Bianco said the investigation had absolutely nothing to do with his campaign for governor. Quote, I have a duty to investigate alleged crime in Riverside County, he said. The effort came as President Trump has repeatedly disputed the result. That has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it. The effort came as President Donald Trump has repeatedly disputed the results of the 2020 election. What does that have to do with this story? Why would CNN put that? His administration, blah, 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 nothing to do with anything. Bonta has repeatedly sent letters to Bianco's office over the last 2 months saying his staff is not qualified to conduct a recount. He's not qualified to recount. Number one, this isn't a recount.
Right.
That's not what's happening. It's an investigation. In one of the letters, Bonta, number two, how qualified do you have to be to do a recount? It's not that difficult.
They only have this many fingers. I don't know.
In one of the letters, Bonta wrote that the ballot seizure was, quote, unacceptable and sets a dangerous precedent and will only sow distrust in our elections. Okay, so what's this all about? What the heck's actually going on? What's happening here is there was an election in November, a special election for Prop 50. And there was actually an independent group of people who went in and looked at numbers and said, hey, wait a minute. There's a discrepancy of not a dozen votes, not 1,000 votes, not even 5,000 votes, 45,800 votes.
Yep.
45,800 votes in a county where the total population is 2.5 million. So not all of them are even voters.
Right.
Only adults can vote, right?
Only non-felon voters.
Right. So 45,800 votes were accounted for. Basically, they came in and said, "All right, here are all the votes," and it was one number, and then the state said, "Great, we're going to certify this," and the vote count they certified had 45,800 additional votes. Where did those votes come from? So again, let me restate this. My understanding here is that the county of Riverside said, here's our vote count. Here you go, state of California. And state of California said, hey, great, thank you so much. We're going to increase your vote count by 45,800 votes. That's a lot. 45,000. That's like an entire city.
And if that's consistent with, if we had that here, and let's just say it's consistent throughout the state.
So that's a good point. So would
Extrapolate that out.
Exactly. So would 45,800 votes make 45,800 votes make a difference? Not in that one county,
Right.
but there are 58 counties.
Right.
So if you just take the same percentage, the delta percentage in each county, we're talking about at least 500,000 votes.
If not more.
But still, 45,800 votes is insane. Okay, so the next step.
I like the last sentence there. You want to keep going down?
Last sentence.
They argue.
Go for it.
They argue the handwritten rolls, which were not relied on to check the count, were being kept by temporary election workers who had worked long days and may have made mistakes.
A 45,000 vote count mistake?
Apparently.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened next? Let's go to this Guardian article. Okay, so court blocks California effort to stop Republican sheriff's ballot recount. Panel denies Attorney General's bid after Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco seized 650,000 special election ballots. It was like 1,000 boxes from what I understand. So a 3-judge panel has denied a filing by California's Attorney General Rob Bonta seeking a court order to stop the Riverside County Sheriff's Department from continuing its recount of ballots from the November 2025
Again, not a
special
recount.
election. Not a recount.
And if their count was accurate, as they claim it is, what's the problem with confirming it?
What's the problem with the report? By the way, he didn't just go grab these boxes. He went to a judge, and the judge said, here you go. Here's a warrant. Yep. You're right. You go collect evidence. So now Rob Bonta is saying, screw you, judge. You're endangering the integrity of elections, judge, by allowing a sheriff to investigate the evidence of a crime. The LA Times reported that Bonta filed a petition with the 4th Appellate District on Monday, writing that, quote, the sheriff's misguided investigation threatens to sow distrust and jeopardize public confidence in upcoming elections. How? Why would that sow distrust?
They live under a rock. There's already distrust
They're
from
absolutely,
their process.
They're grasping at straws.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, the 4th Appellate District Court denied the 70-page petition stating that that Bonta should apply with a lower court. The move comes after Sheriff Chad Bianco, a Republican gubernatorial candidate, last week seized more than 650,000 ballots cast in Riverside County from last November's election and result passage of Prop 50. The proposition redrew the congressional districts to help gerrymander the state in favor of Democrats in response to similar measures in Republican states such as Texas. It's just absolutely floors me. So let's just play this through. If the sheriff received evidence that there was some kind of something happened in the election, and he goes and recounts and finds out that no, it's completely and totally accurate, or even if he finds out, hey, the difference is within the margin of error, how would that sow distrust?
It doesn't.
Wouldn't it be the exact opposite? Wouldn't it be like, oh, wow, okay, well, this guy tried to, make it sound like there was something wrong in the election, but it turns out there wasn't.
Right.
On the other hand, if he does find out that, hey, this is way outside of the margin of error, and there are clearly ballots that showed up that shouldn't have been there, then who cares? It's not that you're sowing the seeds of mistrust. There should actually be mistrust. Because these ballots showed up out of nowhere. Not Bianco. Bonta is absolutely the most incompetent boob I think I could even just fathom in public government. I don't know how this guy got this job. Bianco said his recounting efforts, it's not a recount, he never said he was recounting efforts, stemmed from claims that results were off by 45,800 votes, but Bonta and Art Tanako, I don't know who that is.
Registrar
he's
voters.
the Registrar of Voters for the Riverside County Board of Supervisors, have assured the tallies differ by about 100 votes. Okay, well, that's a big difference.
Very big.
Bianco said at a press conference on Friday that a Riverside Superior Court judge appointed a special master to count the ballots. Quote, this investigation is simple. Physically count the ballots and compare the results with the total votes recounted, Bianco said. There is no indication anywhere in the United States of widespread voter fraud, Bonta said in a statement according to the LA Times. Counts, recounts, hand counts, audits, and court cases all support this. Okay, then what's the problem?
Exactly.
What could possibly be the problem? Bonta has repeatedly sent letters to Bianco's office over the past 2 months saying his staff is not qualified to conduct a recount. Good, because he's not conducting a recount. In one of the letters, Bonta wrote that the ballot seizure was,
Unacceptable and sets that dangerous precedence and only sows distrust, as we've mentioned.
So I thought this was interesting. Sorry about the cough there. Okay. The executive director for the American Civil Liberties Union, that's the ACLU of Southern California, Chandra, I can't pronounce her last name, has shown support for Bonta and called Bianco's claims misleading. This part was unbelievable. And here's, I actually, let's show the ACLU press release, or the story talking about the press release. If anything, I mean, this is how slanted this is, Alicia. If anything, the ACLU should be siding with a hand count. If anything, they should be demanding, if you look at who they are and what they represent and who they're supposed to be, the ACLU should not be standing in the way of clarity. They should not be standing in the way of making sure that elections were fair and accurate. That's how skewed and political this whole thing is.
Well, I think you've already kind of nailed it when you mentioned earlier. First of all, this is not a recount. This is an investigation, right? Bianco went before a judge. He would have had to have shown sufficient evidence to get the warrant. This is an investigation. Their statement for this one from the ACLU just clearly shows she doesn't understand the structure of government. She doesn't understand the roles of the people involved. She says, let's be clear, no sheriff has a legitimate role, much less experience in administrating our elections or in handling hundreds of thousands of voters' ballots. The sheriff's investigation represents a serious threat to voter privacy, undermines our democratic process, and raises questions about the misuse of law enforcement authority for political gain.
None of that's true.
Correct.
Not one.
Right.
How, privacy, how? Like what? None of that is true.
Right.
It's unbelievable. Against the backdrop of the U.S. Department of Justice pressuring states to turn over unredacted voter rolls, this fishing expedition sets a dangerous precedent and reeks of election meddling. We cannot look away as a local official engages in an authoritarian power grab straight out of President Trump's playbook. What are you talking about? Like, this is the most ridiculous claim. It's not an authoritarian power grab. It's actually investigating an authoritarian power grab. It's the complete opposite. It's unbelievable. The ACLU has lost so much credibility in the last 50 years. It's unbelievable.
They're throwing what they can to see what sticks and to see who, because a majority of people are not going to dig into the issue. They're not going to read. They're not going to look into it. They're going to take it on the surface level, what they see, and they're going to run with it.
It truly, if I were, an official, if I were Bonta, or if I were the ACLU or whatever, if I were some kind of community leader in this area, which I don't know, maybe I am actually, I would say, hey, look, let them go. Why issue a single letter?
Let them reaffirm if we feel our process is correct.
Yeah, go for it, man. Boy, is this guy going to look foolish, and then we're really going to make fun of him. The fact that they are so desperately trying to stop him it is even more suspicious.
It says a lot.
Doesn't it?
It does.
It's unbelievable. I got to tell you, I know people are probably listening and going, well, Mike, you've already said you like Sheriff Bianco, so of course you're going to side with him. But this is just so ludicrous. This is so ridiculous. It has some of the most ridiculous people backing, or I should say, some of the most ridiculous people, fighting against it. He's investigating. He's doing exactly what a law enforcement officer should be doing. He's investigating potential crime.
Doing his job.
He gathered evidence. He's not doing a recount. He's just simply counting ballots, and they're portraying him as they should be sending support. They should be saying, hey, if something looks fishy, like 45,000 ballots that just appeared, then hey, let's roll up our sleeves and let's go figure it out. But instead, that's not what they're doing. Unbelievable.
I have to really quickly throw out there, you, as I had, when we looked at the name of the person that is in charge of the ACLU at the moment, Chandra, it is a male, just FYI.
Oh.
It's a man.
What did I say? Did I say it was a woman?
You said she at one point.
My apologies.
Yep.
Not intended to do that. Okay, so let's just show, he did have a press conference. It was very clear, so let's check out, this is Sheriff Chad Bianco at his press conference.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chad Bianco, Riverside County Sheriff. Thank you all for coming this morning. This press conference was called for 3 reasons. Inform the public of this investigation into the 2025 special election based on information received from the group of citizen volunteers who performed an audit based on public records from the ROV. Number 2, discuss interference in this investigation by Attorney General Rob Bonta. And number 3, assure Riverside County residents that we are committed to ensuring our elections are secure, safe, and accurate. In October of 2022, investigators from the Riverside County Sheriff's Office began an investigation into possible election fraud. This investigation is ongoing. On February 9th, 2026, as a result of this investigation, the Riverside County Sheriff's Office served the Registrar of Voters with a warrant approved and signed by a judge for election materials related to the 2025 special election. This investigation is very simple. The Registrar of Voters maintained handwritten logs of the total number of ballots coming into the ROV. An audit of those logs received from the Riverside County Registrar of Voters allegedly shows 611,428 ballots were cast, but 657,322 votes were reported and certified to the Secretary of State. That is a difference of 45,896 votes. The response from the Registrar of Voters was that it did not rely on logs and that it is a machine count that reflects a much smaller deviation that he chalks up to acceptable human error. I hope we can all agree there is no acceptable error, small or large, in our elections, let alone a 45,000 vote difference. Our investigation will determine the validity of that alleged discrepancy, and if found true, we will determine the cause. We will do that by physically counting the ballots. This is not a recount to determine how many votes were for or against Prop 50. Several weeks ago, I was contacted by a representative.
First off, you have your handy calculator?
I do.
Can you do some math for me if you could?
Give me just a second.
So 40. What percentage of 611,000 is 45,000? So you do 45,000. Did I just put you on the spot? Carry the 7.
It's too early in the morning.
Put up the, so if you, it's so 45,000, 611,000, right? So that's 7.33%, 7%, a 7% increase. Now, basically, what they're saying is, hey, there are two databases here.
Right.
There's a hand log, and then there is an electronic reporting. And the difference between the two was originally it was 611,000, and there was a $45,000 vote delta increase over that.
And this election only had that one issue. It's not like they can even try to claim, well, this was a multi ballot to where there was many issues voted on. No, if you were there, you were voting on the one thing.
That was it.
Yeah,
right?
that was it. There was nothing else. It's not like you could have said that, well, they appeared, but they chose not to vote on that issue. No.
Right. It was one thing.
He voted,
one
voted.
thing on the
That was
ballot.
it. That was it. One.
I don't understand the pushback.
Yeah.
Like the most suspicious thing about this, I think there's probably likely that they're going to find some legitimate. Oh, here's why it was 45,000 different. You know what I mean? I think that to me, a likely case scenario is they're going to say, "Oh, okay, gee, we see this, it's reconciled, it's good to go." But the most suspicious part of this is the pushback on simply hand counting ballots. Again, they're not even counting like who voted for what. It's not even for or against Prop 50. They're not trying to figure out, hey, did they even count the yays and nays correctly? They just simply want to count the physical ballots. And the fact that Rob Bonta and the ACLU and all these other Democrats are jumping in and saying, whoa, 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 we don't want to do that. That's the most suspicious part of this thing.
Right.
You know?
Their behavior says a lot.
So I don't know. I'm glad it's happening. I'm glad they're doing it, but
It's about time someone stepped up
but
to
honestly,
hold them accountable.
could you imagine if they'd have why didn't they just stay quiet? This thing would have probably just kind of blown over. Again, the fact that they're trying to stand in the way of Sheriff Bianco, I don't understand. I don't get it. I tell you, this happened in the exact right county. I don't know what other sheriff would have done exactly this. So good on him for doing exactly what he's doing. And I wouldn't have said that except for the pushback.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
Like, I think if there was zero pushback and any sheriff, even Sheriff Bianco, if they were just kind of doing this, I would have just rolled my eyes like, oh, whatever. Just, okay, count the ballots. Do what you got to do. Who cares? Let's get on with the business of the the government here. But the fact that there's this pushback is unbelievably well, it's suspicious, and I think I hope it's not unbelievably telling. You know?
I don't have high hopes for that.
Really? What do you think? What do you think is going to find?
I think a lot of truth is going to come out.
What do you think the truth? Truth is?
We already know there's fraud
I
in a variety of ways.
I don't agree. I don't agree that there's widespread fraud in elections.
The whole mail ballot. I will tell you, I for years after my grandmother passed, I still received a mail ballot for her.
Yeah.
It just and if it's happening on a small scale, the opportunities are there. And there are people that will take advantage of opportunities. I'm pretty confident.
I'm not saying there is no fraud. I'm sure that there are people out there that are bending and breaking rules here and there. But this type of scale is it's if there is some kind of malfeasance, the 45,000 additional that is such an anomaly. It's like I guess what I'm trying to say is there are very few elections you can really truly move one way or the other. Sure, there are a couple of real close elections here and there, but the idea of coordinating and secretively stealing an election, I don't think it's a realistic possibility. We've had experts that have come on and or had on and interviewed, and they've said, yeah, there's a handful here and there, but I don't think it's significant. But if they find it, man, I got to tell you, this is going to be enormous news. 45,000?
It's massive.
It's massive. That's the dumbest attempt I've ever even heard of trying to move a needle.
If they didn't think anybody would challenge it, because like you said, no one has.
Yeah.
No one has. They get brazen.
And
we'll find
a
out.
sheriff. By the way, knowing what I know of Sheriff Bianco, even if he wasn't running for governor, he would
do it.
He would investigate
Absolutely.
this.
He would.
Like, no question in my mind.
Yeah.
This is not this happened while he was running for governor, not because he's running for governor.
Right. I agree.
You know, I've met him, I've talked to him. He's a good man. He's, you know, he's got a backbone. He's, you know, no nonsense, no BS.
Right.
So I think it should be really, really interesting. Everybody's talking about this thing too. Everybody. I'm seeing this all over the place. So anyway, well, there you go. Well, check it out. There's the whole story. Anything else you want to add? No, that's it.
We'll see who's right.
What do you?
Because you and I differ. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
This will be. I don't think people understand. Like, what's the worst case scenario? That there are 45,000 false ballots. Like, that's probably the worst case scenario. That some entity out there.
I think it's just a symptom of a bigger problem.
Which is, what do you mean?
Just all the fraud conspiracy. You know.
Well, but what I'm saying is, if those 45,000 ballots are truly, totally false, they're totally made up, right?
Right.
That's the worst case scenario, I think.
Okay.
That there are 45,000 people that didn't exist who voted to try to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody was behind it. If that's the story, that's the worst case scenario, I don't think people understand just how massive a story that is. I mean, that is earth shattering. I can't think of a bigger story, you know, in like American history.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I do.
So it's hard. We'll see what happens, I guess. But you know, thank God for Sheriff Bianco. He's a great guy, and you know, I hope. Well, I don't know. I don't even know what to hope for. I don't know what to hope for.
Yeah.
Truth, I guess.
Truth.
I hope for truth. So there you go. Check out the story. Vote for Sheriff Bianco for governor. I think he's earned your vote. He does a fantastic job, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
So when you're using it on your firearms, because it takes about 3 cleanings. So I like to say it's a clean shoot, clean shoot, clean shoot process, much like seasoning a cast iron skillet. So you're going to field strip your firearm, break it down, and then you're going to put our product on piece by piece by piece, covering the entire firearm. Then you're going to take the barrel, you're going to clean the barrel inside of that, and then you come back and you wipe it all off, and you're done. It's that easy. Remember, seal one and done.
So everybody's heard of our program, Not Me. It's our women's program that helps women prevent and stop sexual assault and domestic violence by making sure that they have a self-defense tool, that they have training, and that they have a permit so that they can carry outside of the home. It is our anniversary, the month of April, and it is also the reason we started in April is because it is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and every year Desi, who heads up the Not Me program, puts together a whole list of things that people can do to be better trained and get more involved in the program. So we're going to have her come on the show and talk to us about it. So without further ado, Desi Bergman, how are you?
Hey, Mike. Good to see you, sir. Hi,
Good
Alicia.
to see you.
Hey.
So, Not Me, talk about it. What do you like about Not Me? What do people need to know? If people have never heard of the Not Me program, what do they need to know?
So the Not Me SD program has been around since 2019, and it was San Diego County Gunner's response to help end domestic violence and sexual assault in San Diego. And in the past, 7 years, we've helped almost 1,500 women through the program. And Mike, we help those women by helping them find the right instructors. We help them pick out the right firearm. And we, of course, help them with their CCW process.
And you head up that program, and you help the ambassadors work with the women, and you help the women work with the ambassadors and the instructors, and you have all kinds of cool stuff going on. What's the most rewarding part about working with the Not Me program?
Honestly, Mike, I would think it's the gratitude that I feel from the women that come through the program, because when these women come to us, Mike, they've experienced something and they're looking for that firearms help. And so when we can help these women take back that mindset and empower them to be their own protector, that gratitude that you feel from these women because you're helping them, and it's something that I can't describe. And I love being able to help these women that come to us for help.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Alicia, you and I have talked about this. It's back in I think it was 2017 when we started doing seminars on how to get your CCW.
Right.
I didn't know how successful it was going to be. I didn't know how much interest there was. And I really figured honestly, looking back, I thought it was going to be a bunch of guys who, gun guys who go to the range and now they want to carry. And we'd all been waiting in San Diego to get CCWs.
Right.
So I was really surprised when almost every time I taught a seminar, at the end of the seminar, there would inevitably be a woman who'd kind of hang back a little bit, and wait.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'd come up to me and tell me, she's got an ex that's stalking her. She's got a coworker that's being weird and following her or something like that.
Or a neighbor.
She's got a restraining order.
Yep.
And the first couple times I thought, okay, well, wow, this is how unusual. What a unique experience. And that unique experience turned out to be a very normal experience, or a very common, maybe not normal, but maybe common's a better word.
Right.
And I just realized you guys, women, you guys live in a whole different world than we do. I mean, it's the same planet Earth. It's the same San Diego, but you guys live in a whole different world than we do, Desi.
We do. And Mike, to kind of back up what you're talking about, is 1 in 3 women will be a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault at some point in their lifetime. I mean, think about it, Mike. You've got 2 women on this call with you today. I mean, technically, the statistics are either one of us might be a victim at some point. And 91% of sexual assault victims, Mike, are women, right? And when we talk about more statistics, only a small percentage, Mike, of those women actually carry some type of self-defense tool. And that could be pepper spray, that could be a firearm. But yet the national statistics show that Americans use a firearm for self-defense millions of times per year.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's crazy that women don't carry enough self-defense tools. And that's why, in the month of April, I mean, and Alicia and I do a lot of classes together throughout the year, but we really do pack the schedule in April because it's the awareness month. And we want to make sure that we are promoting these classes so we can give these women more tools to protect themselves. So let's talk about the month of April and what we have going on.
Let's talk about the month of April. Before we get into the month of April, though, so the basic idea, though, is if you go to notmeca.org, if you go to that, and you can actually click through, if you're a woman who wants to know more about gun ownership, or needs to know more about the gun that you already own, or wants to purchase a firearm for the first time, if you want help, go to notmeca.org, and you can actually enter your information. You can say, hey, this is the type of information I'm interested in. Maybe you just have some questions. Maybe you want to purchase a firearm. Maybe you want to try one for the first time. Whatever it is, if it touches self-defense in any way, go enter your information. Desi will evaluate your application, and she will make sure that you get all the resources you need to be successful in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish when it comes to self-defense. And if there's any piece of that is cost prohibitive, if you don't have enough money to buy a gun, if you don't have enough money to get a CCW or something like that, or you need a discount or a grant, we will make sure that your self-defense is not cost prohibitive. So whatever it is you need, go to notmeca.org, and Desi she's going to be the quarterback. She's going to help you find the resources you need. That's the program 365. So all year round, 24/7, 365, that's the basic program, right? Desi, did I get that right?
Maybe not 24/7. I do like to sleep, but 365, correct.
There you go. So, all right. But once a year, the month of April, Desi goes crazy and gets all kinds of cool resources, classes, and things for you. So let's talk about that. What's going on April 2026?
All right. So the first thing that we're actually starting April off with is one of my favorites, which I get to go on KUSI and represent the program in front of our local San Diego audience. And this is great. I love going on and representing the organization, talking about awareness to the whole county. So that'll be April 1st, bright and early. So if you guys want to watch me, I'll be on at 8:20. Support your girl. So that's the first thing we're starting off with the month. But that's just a little thing. Celebrity, we want autographs. It's okay. I'm here for you guys. Fast forward to April 8th, which is the Wednesday after, a week later, Alicia and I are working on a pepper spray and situation awareness class, which this is one of my favorite classes that I know Alicia teaches, because we're really teaching women about being aware in certain situations when you're out and about, when you're loading groceries, right? We talk through pepper spray and how to use it properly. And I always love when we kind of talk about the awareness, when you have like these moms and daughters in there. And Alicia, you know what I'm talking about, to where we talk about being aware and not being on your cell phone the whole time, right? And the moms will just look at the daughter and be like, yeah, get off your cell phone.
A lot of elbows.
A lot of those. And So it's a great way to start off the month. And Mike, to your point, like what you mentioned earlier, is we never want these trainings to be cost prohibited, right? These trainings can be significantly expensive, but we offer them at a very discounted rate because we also want women to be able to get these tools to protect themselves and have it not be cost prohibited. You know, we always do charge like $10 for it, but that's really kind of to help with like the class. And we do give you a pepper spray. We're going to practice with it. You get to know more your community. And Alicia, of course, is an amazing instructor and who teaches this multiple times. And we always get really great feedback.
That's awesome. What are you teaching, Alicia?
So, well, as I said, right, the key thing, the one thing I think that is very valuable, that it can be challenging to find, is not only do we talk about stuff, but we have inerts for them to practice with. So they actually get to not just say like this hypothetical, well, you hold it here and you put your finger here and you push the button here and you do this thing. They actually get to, we reenact, we do scenarios. We do role play, and they actually use inerts, and they actually deploy it, and they see what does it actually do, how far does it go, does it really impact and hit where I want it to be, and is it going to deploy the way that I need it to?
The inert is a bottle. It looks exactly like pepper spray, but it's full of water.
Essentially correct. Yes,
so
it comes directly from the company.
You don't suffer.
It's an inert version of it. It is water. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Why is it important to you to teach these classes, Alicia?
I think that for a variety of reasons. One is as we know, we live in the state of California. In the state of California, there's some strict laws that regulate self-defense, and as far as they require us to be proportional. The firearm should not be the answer to everything. So even for people that carry, a lesser non-lethal option, I feel, is very critically important. Give yourself the appropriate options. And even then, there are many women that are not ready to carry yet. They need to have something. So it kind of puts a tool in your tool belt, whether it's one of a few tools or one of many. It's an important tool, in my opinion, that everybody should have some knowledge on.
Cool.
Gives them the tools.
You're carrying yours right now, right? I know where you hide yours. We won't show that on air, but I know where you carry yours.
There it is. Okay, shake it up when I get ready for the day. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and Mike too, like a lot of the women that come through Not Me, like it's a variety of women that we get that come through this. You've got the novice, that's a 21-year-old, right, who just really wants to learn about it. You do have your victims that come through the program, but then you also have like this demographic of women that are, say, they're widowed, right? And now they've got this safe full of guns from like their husbands, and they're not used to having to be their own protector. Like they're used to having a man to protect them. And so now they've been thrown into the situation where that person isn't there anymore. And so they're wanting to learn about firearms and firearms ownership, but they might want to take that jump. And so we kind of have to evaluate as these women come to us through the program, or at least I do, that's for sure. And for one, can they even fire a firearm? I mean, a lot of these little old ladies that are like, yay tall, they come to us and they're so tiny and they can really even hold a gun. And, you put one in their hand for the very first time and they're so scared. But that's why we offer these shooting social events, right? Where we walk them through it. We might start with a 22 ammo compared to like a 9mm, right? But even taking a step further back than that, starting with like a pepper spray and a non-lethal force to protect themselves, it's really kind of taking those baby steps to get them to the point where they're confident enough to carry a firearm or even just to fire a firearm.
Nice. All right, cool. Okay, so if someone's listening, they want to get involved, they want to see the list of classes, or they want to take, sign up for a shooting social, they want to take a pepper spray class or whatever, what's your advice?
They can go to notmeca.org. All of our April events are listed on the website. You can take a look at the pepper spray class. We still have openings. We also have a couple other classes going on towards the end of the month, which I'm super excited about. So lots of events going on in April. And we still have openings for all of the events that we have.
And what's the big event at the end of the month?
Oh, this is one, Mike, that you helped, launch, and I am super excited. But every month at the end of April, we always wrap up the event or the month with a big event. We've had our district attorney, Summer Steffen. We've had our local sheriff, Martinez. And this year, you were somehow able to get a super cool guest, which I am so excited about, but Chad Bianco. So everybody knows the name Chad Bianco. He is running for our governor. I'm super excited. He is the local Riverside sheriff right now. And he is going to be coming down to do a dinner with us and talk about awareness and what he's doing and maybe how leaders can help impact that in our local communities.
There you go. So that's your opportunity to meet, hopefully, the next governor of California. He's running for governor. He's the sheriff of Riverside County, Chad Bianco. You're going to get to be in a room with him, ask him questions, take a picture with him, all the good stuff. And I don't know how much is that? I think it's really affordable. I don't
$20. $20 gets you a delicious dinner, and you get
There
to
you
hang
go.
out with all of us.
So where do they go to sign up for that?
They can go to notmeca.org, go to our list of events, and you can see all of the April events are listed. That one is on there at the very end, but definitely sign up. We'd love to fill the room. Come have dinner with us. It'll be a great evening.
Awesome. Desi, you do such a good job, and I just absolutely am blown away every day by your passion and how hard you work at this. It's something that you truly, truly care about. You've been doing it for years. You've helped a lot of women learn a lot of things, and I don't think you get enough credit, and thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Anything else, Alicia? What do you think?
I think April's going to be a great month. There was
is,
one
huh?
other event that we didn't talk about that I'd like to just.
There's a
put
couple
in
other
really
events.
quick.
Okay, go for it. What is it? What did I miss?
Go ahead. I'll let you go, Desi. Plug it.
So we have a firearms ownership class that we are doing on April 22nd, where a lot of women that come through the program, of course, want to buy a firearm, but where do I go? How do I buy one? What am I supposed to buy? What are the rules and regulations to purchase a firearm? And so Alicia and I are putting this class together to where we're going to walk through the whole process of firearms ownership, what to do when you're transporting it to and from your house to, say, the range, how to home carry, or I'm sorry, not how to home storage. Alicia, what am I missing here? I know we've got a fully packed agenda, right? And we're actually doing this twice because we're doing it with Carl DeMaio's group and we're doing it with the Not Me SD group.
What it is it's filling a lot of the holes for people that have not purchased their first firearm yet because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And what we don't know, it tends to be a prohibitive thought that I'm not ready. And we fill all those holes with all the stuff so that they feel, okay, I'm ready to take the step, I'm ready to purchase, and I know the rules, to kind of start off with. And, the training is, the training's also important. That comes later, but this at least gives them the encouragement and the strength to go, I'm ready to at least start the journey.
All right. Where's that happening?
It's going to be here, April 22nd. Here
Discount Gun Mart on Marina, but you got to go to notmeca.org to sign up.
Correct.
Good.
You got it.
So if you know anybody that needs that class, let them know. If you need that class, let them know. Check it out. Space is limited, but we have plenty of room. So sign up sooner rather than later. And again, thank you so much for what you guys are doing. You guys always make April really, really special, and you make a lot of people happy with all the information you spread. And Alicia, thank you so much for all your hard work.
Happy to help.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks,
NotMeCA.org.
Alicia.
What's that, Desi?
So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
So the lifeblood of every organization is membership. We absolutely need membership. And you as a Second Amendment activist want to be involved. You want to help make things better. And we have a way for you to be involved, get involved, and stay involved. Look at our volunteer page. If you go to sdcgo.org/volunteer, we keep it up to date, and there's always an opportunity for you to get more involved. Our bread and butter are our shooting socials, where we teach people how to shoot. They've never had a shooting experience. Maybe they're brand new to shooting and they want to have a first-time shooting experience. You can help us do that. Or if you want to help spread the word, we have tabletops at different gun shops, at different events, and you can volunteer to tell people more about the Second Amendment, more about how to get a CCW, or more about being a member of an organization like SDCGO. The good news is it's super easy. We'll help train you. We'll help you get involved. We'll give you the opportunity to do good things.
If you don't have the time to volunteer, there's another way that you can help too. We are always looking for folks to donate. And if you want to pledge $5,000 in this next year, we will have you on our show as a guest host. So come join us in the studio. We would love to have you here for one episode, and that is for a price of $5,000.
$5,000 donation to San Diego County Gun Owners gets you a guest host with me and Dakota and Alicia, and you get to talk about whatever you want to talk about, and you get to do whatever you want to right here on Gun Owners Radio. So thank you so much. Whatever you do, just do a little bit more than you did last year and help us defend and preserve the Second Amendment right here in your backyard. Okay, our guest today is John Hearn. He's from Two Pillars Training. John is known for bringing together real-world best practices with the latest in quality research. John has been a range master staff instructor since 2001 and has a public safety career going back to 1986. From 92 to 2023, John was a federal law enforcement officer and retired as a field supervisor. He taught a variety of subjects in his agency, from firearms to tactics to legal updates. John's a true expert in the field, and we're proud that we're going to have him out here in San Diego soon. So we wanted to talk to him and have him educate us on all kinds of subjects. So without further ado, John Hearn, how are you, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great. I just hope I can live up to that introduction.
Yeah, right? Well, you come highly recommended from people I respect, so I'm positive we're going to be impressed. Okay, guess what my first question is?
No idea.
No idea. What are the two pillars in the two pillars of
Oh,
training?
okay. So I have friends who named businesses, and in hindsight, they're all like, dude, you got to pick the business name carefully, because like once you get the name, you can't go back.
Yeah.
So there are enough bearded tactical operator bro dudes out there, and that's not what I do. I mean, I do have a beard, but I have 0 tattoos. So my credibility in that arena is just pretty much shot. And I'm like, well, what do I do? And what I try to do is bring together peer-reviewed scientific research. I kind of have that academic background that I build off of. But I spent a lot of time as a law enforcement officer. I probably got over 2,000 hours of professional firearms training. I've trained with almost everybody who's anybody in the gun business, you know, Gunsight, Thunder Ranch, Chuck Taylor, Louis Auerbach. I mean, I was able to train a lot of people. So I'm like, what we need to do is try to merge those two things. So the two pillars are peer-reviewed scientific research, because I love me some journal articles, but also how do we apply this stuff in the real world? Let's look at what people are doing that works and try to bring those two worlds together. So that's where the name comes from.
It looks your logo looks very Herculean. You know.
Well, I get that, and Masonic. He's like, "Are you a Mason?" And I'm like, "I get why you ask that, but no, you know, just a little homage to the ancient Greeks back there."
So who is doing like peer-reviewed work on gun stuff or on defensive gun use? You know what I mean? Where are you finding who's producing articles on that?
So it's gotten a lot better. Initially, it was really hard to find, but so like when I first started my the research that I used for my presentation is about I started almost 14 years ago. And I actually ended up pulling a lot of stuff from the aviation community, because the aviation community deals with high stress, high consequence events as far as that goes. There has been research slowly trickling out. A lot of it comes from the police world as far as that goes. Most of the armed citizen research is more along the line of jury selection and impressions as far as that goes. But we have a remarkably building body of research out there now. We know about proper training intervals, how levels of skill mitigate stress effects. So if you just, you know, the secret to research is you just get to the end notes and you just go and read everything. So there's been some pretty good work done out of Europe, of all places. It sounds weird, but of all the Western countries, probably the United States is the worst about quality law enforcement training. Everybody else is taking that subject very seriously. So there's a series of European researchers who have turned out really good work. Then you have some institutional stuff. The Federal Law Enforcement Training Center kind of broke the ice in 2004. They did a big study that started to counteract a lot of the myths on human performance under high levels of stress. And then every article, every research piece kind of follows from that.
What do you attribute that to? How come the Europeans are got the edge on us?
I'm not sure. Part of it is in the United States, the universities are so left-leaning that it's very hard to find gunfight winners to study. My collection of gunfight winners is a lot smaller, and I think it has to do with that academic bias. That when the police shoot criminals, they're just victims of our evil capitalist society, and learning to shoot them more efficiently is not, in fact, a hot topic of research. I think the Europeans recognize, at least to some degree, the need for appropriate violence as far as that goes, and have just taken a better, been more willing to investigate and go down some rabbit holes as far as that goes.
So law enforcement,
and you also have people like Bill Lewinsky and Force Science that have cranked out some stuff as well.
Law enforcement's been an interesting subject. I've been talking about law enforcement for years. It's such a mixed, broad, complex subject. And you were a law enforcement officer for 30 years, something like that, right?
About 31 years. To give you somebody, I started out carrying a revolver as a duty gun. So,
So, one of the things that's difficult is, we're Second Amendment advocates. We're gun owners. Our listeners, our members with San Diego County gun owners are all, gun people, and we live in a restrictive state in a country that's more restrictive than we even want it to be. And the people who enforce those restrictions are law enforcement officers. But the law enforcement officers are a subset of gun owners too. So it's kind of this weird internal battle sometimes, the ones who are, these laws that we disagree with and we fight against, once they get implemented, the people who are going to come and enforce those laws are law enforcement officers. And I think that law enforcement officers spend an entire career sometimes on the wrong side of a gun. Somebody's pointing a gun at them that wants to do them harm. It's a messy relationship, and I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the relationship between gun advocates and law enforcement officers who are also gun owners?
so I think what we're dealing with is a larger cultural change. Kind of the description of cops as fellow gun owners was true a couple of decades ago. But if you go and you talk to your typical police academy and you ask the recruits, how many of you owned a gun prior to getting to the academy, very few of them actually will have. And, of all you mentioned where you live, California is infamous for their police hiring practices. Now, you'll put in an application with the police department, and they'll have 3 lines to list all the guns you own. And if you have to ask for a continuation sheet, you're simply not going to be hired by that police department. So I would say there's been this decades running divergence between who our cops are less coming from that community of gun owners. I grew up in rural Virginia, shooting on the property, hunting in the woods, that sort of thing. And as we've become more urbanized and we don't allow kids to fight in school, the whole cultural dynamics have changed. And, I was out in San Diego, it was probably 8 or 9 years ago, for a wife's friend's wedding. And I sat down and had a 2.5-hour breakfast by a gentleman by the name of Eldon Carl. I don't know if you know who Eldon was, but he was one of the original combat pistol masters under Jeff Cooper. San Diego County deputy, amazing shooter. That's not who's going to be showing up on your calls anymore. Somebody that spent his entire life as a competitor, that understands that that the gun is a morally neutral object, and it's only the person that wields it that determines whether it's a device for good or evil. So I guess big cultural changes would be the short answer to that. And the interfacing is interesting because the police, as the Supreme Court has widened that umbrella, that you're less restrictions, the police are really struggling with the reality that it's perfectly okay for Joe or John citizen to walk around with a gun. And a lot of agencies are struggling to adjust to that when, for years, if they could articulate they had a reason to think that you were armed and dangerous, then they could do all sorts of things to you as far as that goes. So legal landscape's changing, cultural landscape's changing.
Yeah, even the ones that do agree with us, they still have to enforce the laws, and I know it's difficult. It's definitely difficult. It's difficult, and it's never easy. And the last thing I want is for police officers, law enforcement in general, to be adversarial with the Second Amendment community. But it's frustrating. I think one of the biggest changes law enforcement could make is right now they tend to look after themselves first when it comes to these gun laws. A lot of times they'll introduce some stupid gun law, and then they'll carve out law enforcement. Let's say this doesn't apply to law enforcement. And then boom, all the unions and the associations that represent law enforcement say, oh, all right, well then we support it. We approve it. Or at the very least, we don't oppose it. And I think just that change alone would be an enormous help to not just, public policy, not just relations between, advocates and law enforcement, but just a public policy, because they'd help stop some of these ridiculous gun laws. But I don't know, it's difficult. It's not easy. And I know there's a lot of suspicion on both sides. There are people that are cops that aren't real fond of gun advocates and, think of them as gun nuts. But then on the other side, there's a lot of advocates who are like, hey, I don't trust cops. They'll arrest you, they'll abuse their power or whatever. But I don't know. It's a subject that I like to bring up with career law enforcement, and I think you have a very unique perspective on that.
Well, I think again, it's a complex issue because we're supposed to be a constitutional republic. And if we want to go, this is one of the reasons I'm glad I'm retired. I have some familiarity with the Constitution. The Fourth Amendment doesn't say the police and the government can't search you. It says it can't search you unreasonably, and it sets forth conditions. You've got to have probable cause on a warrant issued by a magistrate. There's all these check boxes that allows the government to infringe upon your person's papers and property when the boxes are checked. But nowhere in the Second Amendment are any of those provisions in there. It's, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I just think it's a bizarro world that, we've been able to warp the plain text of the Second Amendment as far as we have.
And when you take that right away from people and the, fewer and fewer people, I've seen it in California, for sure in San Diego. When I started getting involved in advocacy 15 whatever years ago, there was basically an entire generation of San Diegans who were not familiar with firearms because the laws were so restrictive. So now you have a whole generation of cops whose only interaction with gun owners are criminals, because you don't have people that are sane, trained, and law-abiding who are carrying in San Diego. And the just giving them an organization to rally around, and then once we got CCWs to be something that were normal and that were being issued, that has really started to produce a cultural change. Now very few people in San Diego can really truly say they don't know somebody who doesn't own or carry or practice or whatever. And it's been enormous. But I don't know. I think that in general, advocates, we want law enforcement on our side. I think why wouldn't we? We want everybody on our side. Anybody that's doing any kind of advocacy, we want more friends, not fewer.
I think that goes back to politics as far as getting kind of what you're asking for. Excuse me. The example I'll use of this is I have a friend that used to hire deputy sheriffs. And one of the interview questions was, hey, you get a call that somebody at the grocery store has a gun. How are you going to handle that when you get there? And the answer to the question is, are they doing anything unlawful? No. They just have a gun. Yeah. Well, the answer is you leave that person alone. That's what the law of the land is in that particular state. So we have this bizarro world where there's a saying that personnel is policy, right? So the people that the departments hire for whatever reason are really going to be selected to either have that stronger, independent, pro-Second Amendment view or not. I think I can say this now. The agency I worked for the National Park Service for all those years. And up until 2008, we had a prohibition against loaded guns in vehicles and in park areas. That didn't get changed in 2008. I can count on one hand with several fingers left over how many tickets I wrote for a loaded gun. And I worked in Mississippi a lot of those years, and I encountered a lot of loaded guns. It's like, yeah, sir, here's the story. You're supposed to unload the gun. Let me help you. I can remember some poor lady. She has a little tip-up 22. And, I had to literally get a rod out and knock the round out of the barrel just to get her in compliance with the law. But, she didn't take any enforcement action. I want to say in my entire career, so that would have been from 92 to 2008, the law was like that. I wrote 2 tickets for loaded guns. One was somebody that we caught poaching. You're poaching the government steer. You're probably going to get tagged for the illegal gun. And a methamphetamine user. Discretion exists for a reason. Not everybody needs to get the whole treatment. You should be able to recognize good citizens from criminals with just a modicum of street experience.
So, and that law, what happened? I believe the law you're referencing is they passed a law that said, hey, you have to, the national parks have to
the states were able to determine.
Basically, they said, you adopt the laws of the host state, right?
Yep, absolutely. It was the National Park Service, Fish and Wildlife, and I think U.S. Forest Service lands. But they excluded the Army Corps of Engineers, which is something that still needs to be fixed.
What do you mean?
That regulation does not apply on lands owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. They do not have to respect state laws as far as gun rights go.
I thought, last year there was a guy that was proposing. What was that guy's name, Alicia? You remember? There was a guy down in Florida in Congress. He was proposing a CCW for military bases so that, military dependents could carry. I think that military.
We talked about it. I don't recall.
I don't remember the guy's name either. He was down in like the Sarasota area, but I think that John, I don't know what if you think this would be. I think that military bases should do the exact same thing as these federal parks and just adopt the carry practices and laws of their host state. So if you're a military family and you're living on a military base and you have a CCW for your host state, you should be able to carry on base. I don't know why anybody would push back on that.
Well, the people in charge like to have control. I mean, the key word in gun control is control.
No, it's not so much about the gun. It's more about the control, isn't it, John?
Oh, absolutely. And, it's just, this is the ludicrousness we're dealing with is we know that the professionals cannot protect you and have no legal obligation to protect you. So, with the way, my take on the way the country's going is we're being divided into two large groups of people. We have areas of the country that will allow you to defend yourself and your loved ones. And you have areas of the country that will punish you for that. And we're getting to the point that you're going to have to, if you want to be, the government's not going to protect you in either one. You're just going to have to decide where you want to live and whether it's worth the hassle of moving to be someplace where you're not going to be persecuted for exercising, what are fundamental natural rights.
Yeah, no kidding. So as an instructor and as someone who is, who studies statistics and real world scenarios, what is a statistic or a factoid or a study or a survey or a pie chart or something that you've come across that you think that more people should know about or really blew your socks off?
So one of the theories that had run around forever was that actual skill at arms matters. So if you talk to other police subject matter experts that I respect highly, there's this idea of the fear biter that a lot, you think about the barking chihuahua, right? A lot of the bad uses from law enforcement come from people who are fundamentally incapable of using their tools, whether they're intermediate weapons, firearms, stuff like those tools. That had always been a very popular theory, but we had had a hard time tracking down and showing something to prove that. So a couple of years ago, a gentleman, actually, I think he's based out of Coronado, by the name of Adam Biggs. He's a PhD that does a lot of research for the government, did this fascinating study. And they were basically doing scenarios in shoot houses, and they were measuring cortisol levels. And cortisol levels tell you how stressed out you are at a given time. If you ask any military service member, are you stressed right now? They're always going to say no. But if there's elevated levels of cortisol in your saliva, you're stressed out. And what they were finally able to show is that only two variables really had much influence on good decisions in the shoot house. And they were your level of stress going into the scenario. So if you had elevated cortisol before, you were more likely to make mistakes, right? If you were wound up, if you were fearful. But they also found that as your marksmanship skills went up, you had a lower release of cortisol. So we can now say fairly with a fair degree of certainty that higher levels of technical skill will allow people to make better decisions under high stress circumstances. I know we got a lot of probably shooters here. I love that study because it was published in Nature magazine. And one of the problems with previous research was they didn't use very granular shooting tests. So for the study, he had them, one round from the holster, one reload, one, and a bill drill. So now that term, bill drill, now by God appears in Nature magazine. So that one always made me happy.
Interesting. All right, so what does that mean What does that mean for me and Alicia? It doesn't mean anything for Alicia because she's really good at what she does. But what does that mean for me? Knowing that, hearing that study, now what do I do with that?
So one of the kind of the myths we have is I call it the check the box myth. Hey, I bought a gun and I put it in my sock drawer. Well, that doesn't make you any safer, and arguably in some circumstances it can make you less safe. So if you're going to own a gun and plan to use it to protect yourself and others, you have obligations on multiple levels, but I would argue primarily ethical and moral levels, to regularly practice with that gun and maintain a high enough level of skill that you'll be able to function under higher levels of stress. I think about it as a pyramid, right? The base of that pyramid is your raw skill, what you have, your ability to reliably and consistently hit the target, manipulate the gun, keep it in the fight, that sort of thing. When you have that high level of skill, that leads to confidence. And once you have confidence, that leads to coolness, right? Coolness is just your ability to keep your head when things are going wrong. And that's arguably the most important skill you can have. It's like, hey, the world is falling apart around me, but here I am actively problem solving, trying to make things better along the way. So I think if you're going to especially carry a gun out in public, you have an obligation to be able to use that gun capably and competently.
There does seem to be, and the type of training you're describing, I think, is important. There does seem to be an overemphasis on standing in a lane and putting a hole in paper, rather than, hey, here's how to work your gun. Here's how to, work on malfunctions. Here are the legalities and the ethics and the decision making that you need to know when you're carrying, or even if if you have a gun on your nightstand for self-defense. And it seems like we're in an era where a much broader type of training is happening, which I'm really, really happy about. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think it makes complete sense. I've taken a lot of training over the years, and I liken it to like hey, I bought a chainsaw. I'm going to learn how to run a chainsaw. So you go to a class, a guy shows you how to put gas in it. He shows you where to put the bar oil on it. He maybe even shows you how to start it, right? And at the point you can, get the chainsaw to start and hit the throttle and move the chain, they're like, okay, class is over. You're sitting there going, hold on, I bought this thing to cut down trees. When are we going to cut down the trees? And they're like, oh, no. That's too dangerous. We're not going to do that, right? We're just going to show you how to run it. So most shooting involves teaching you how to mechanically operate a device. Most shooting classes don't teach you how to apply that device in the real world, which is what I'm doing. I have a whole 2-day class called Cognitive Pistol with Tactical Anatomy. And the whole purpose of Cognitive Pistol is to introduce a third metric. So traditionally in the shooting world, we measure people by speed and accuracy. We need to add the third metric of discrimination. Did you shoot the right target the right number of times? Adding that into part of that educational process. There's an awesome dude by the name of Dustin Solon that has written books about that. But in a lot of ways, your brain is like a circuit board. And if you don't train properly, you're not building a circuit board that's actually going to serve you in the real world.
Wow. Now you're coming out to San Diego, right?
I'm going to be in San Diego. Yep.
What's the talk about what you're going to be teaching in San Diego?
So I have a lecture called Who Wins, Who Loses, and Why, Understanding Human Performance When Death is on the Line. And yes, if you're wondering, that is a Princess Bride reference as far as that goes. But it is about roughly an 8-hour talk.
Inconceivable.
Yeah, inconceivable, right? It's an 8-hour talk where I bring together a coherent model for how to do better. So we understand who wins, who loses, and why. And then at the end, we spend the whole end of the session discussing best training practices, what you need to do. And what I call it is like I bring the receipts. There's a lot of they saids and I heards in the training world. And I don't care about they said and I heard. I'm like, here's this article, published in this peer review journal. This is what it says. Here's this study by Dr. Darrell Ross, where he looked at police gunfight winners. These are the characteristics they have in common. And what I like to think I'm really good at is I reduce it to plain English. One of the best compliments I ever got as an instructor was at the end of this 8-hour lecture that can get pretty deep at times. Is like, I have this guy walk up to me. He's like, dude, I only graduated from high school, but I'm pretty sure I understand everything you said today. So I use academic research to inform people, but we don't get down in the weeds. I try really hard not to talk about like brain parts. I mean, it's like, yeah, you have a neocortex, it's involved in here, but you don't need to know that level of detail. It's like your brain, an operator's manual, as opposed to your brain, an instructor's course, as far as that goes. This particular time, we're going to spread it across 2 evenings. We're going to be doing it Tuesday and Wednesday night on April 14th and 15th at Tri-Tactical there in El Cajon. As far as that goes, hoping to see some folks out there. The class gets rave reviews. If you look at the website, you know, Masad Ayub wrote a glowing article for me in the last print edition of American Handgunner. That article or that lecture is the basis of a chapter I wrote for one of Masad Ayub's books along the way. So again, it's an 8-hour deep dive into what you need to know to function in almost any high stress environment as far as that goes. I have a very clear focus on the self-defender, but if you're in a high stress environment, whether that's working in an emergency room or flying an airplane or being a firefighter, you know, it's important that we keep those second responders in mind.
That's awesome, John. Well, cool. Well, we're going to put up a link so that people can sign up. And yeah, that's a great venue, Tri-Tactical in El Cajon. April 14 and 15?
Yes.
April 14th and 15th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. We're going to run it as it'll be a we'll spread the 8 hours across 2 evenings.
Good. What better day to celebrate or what better time to celebrate tax day than, go learn about some gun stuff. Cool, John. Really appreciate it, man. You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I'm truly fascinated by your curriculum and the things that you talked about here today. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Come on out. I bring enthusiasm. I'll probably keep you entertained.
Awesome. I look forward to it. You're going to be there?
I'll be there.
All right. I'm going to be there too. Yeah. I'll come pick you up.
All right.
And we'll go.
In the clean truck.
Yeah, exactly. All right, John. Thanks, man.
Man, thanks for having me. Great
what's your website too? It's twopillarstraining.com, right?
Yep. twopillarstraining.com.
Okay, good. Everybody check out his website. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Since 2019, more than 1,400 women have applied to be a part of Not Me CA. What began as a small program has grown into a movement that is empowering women across our community. Since 2021, we've hosted educational shooting socials every month, where about a dozen women at a time come together to learn and to build confidence. We've also granted over a dozen firearms to women who could not afford one, ensuring that cost is never a barrier to safety. Our work has been recognized at the highest level in San Diego County, and in 2023, the County Board of Supervisors honored Not Me SD with a proclamation, and in 2024, the City of Escondido did the same. But the real reward comes from the lives that we've impacted. We offer a series of classes from Stop the Bleed to pepper spray and situational awareness and women's self-defense, alongside with firearms training and CCW support. Survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault know they have a safe place to turn, and every participant is paired with a mentor to guide them and support them every step of the way. At Not Me CA, our mission is clear: to give women the courage, knowledge, and power. Created by women for women, we are here to ensure that every woman has the tools, training, and confidence that she needs to protect herself and to live without fear. But we cannot do this work alone. We need your help. Your donations directly provide training, mentorship, and even firearms to women who otherwise would have no way to protect themselves. Every dollar you give equips another woman with safety and with hope. Please join us. Invest into courage, invest into empowerment, and invest into women's safety. Together, we can change lives.
Everybody's favorite segment, Stump My Nephew. We found out years ago that my nephew Sam is fantastic when it comes to gun trivia. So if you send in a question, he'll answer it. The first time he's ever heard it is when we read it to him when we're on the air here. He doesn't get to prepare. He's got to work right from memory, and he does a fantastic job. So if you send in a question and we use it on the air, we'll give you a hat or a shirt, whichever you prefer. And if you stump my nephew, then we'll give you a cool special prize. Okay. So, Sam, how you doing, man?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we're gonna do something a little different, Alicia. You know how we've been we've for years we've been asking questions, right?
Right.
And then about a month ago or so, we had somebody write in and say, "Hey, I need some advice."
Yes.
Right. So this is kind of a hybrid, Sam. We're kind of doing a little bit of both. I ran across this question from a guy named James Nash, and he is from Rigorous Living. You can find him on YouTube at Rigorous Living, James Nash.
Yep.
Hadn't heard of him before, but he proposed a question out there, and then I couldn't find the answer. I'm not even sure the question is answerable. So it's a little bit trivia, and it's a little bit advice, but I wanted to see what your thoughts were. What do you think? You think was this going to go over, Alicia? Is this going to go well?
I think there is an answer, and I think Sam's going to give it.
Okay, all right.
So I know what the question is.
You know the question?
I do.
All right. Sam, you ready? You ready for this?
Sure, let's have it.
Okay, here's the question from James Nash, Rigorous Living. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him on social media. So let her rip.
It's a pretty
All
wide
right, recoil
mustache.
experts, here's a question for you. What is going to have more recoil, assuming that the guns weigh the same amount? A 12 gauge shooting a 7/8 ounce load or a 20 gauge shooting a 7/8 ounce load? If the powder charges are the same and the load is the same, which one is going to give you more felt recoil? All right, recoil experts, here's a question for you.
There you go. Okay.
Same
All
powder
right.
charge, same load. The guns weigh the same amount. That really is a tough question. I think it would get into calculating bolt thrust, which I don't know how to do.
You don't?
No, not off the top of my head. I will say anecdotally, I have shot 12 gauge reloads that are, they don't use 20 gauge load data, or load data, however you prefer to pronounce it, but they were like feather light target loads, which have the same amount of shot mass as a typical 20 gauge load, 7/8 of an ounce as opposed to 1 1/8. But they're for target shooting, so you don't need quite as much shot in the shot column. You just need the better pattern you get from a 12 gauge, and you get a lot less recoil because there's less mass going down range at the same velocity.
Well, I'll tell you what, while you're thinking about it,
This
Sam.
is a really tricky one.
It is tricky, but while you're thinking about it, while you're kind of working through it, let's say Alicia and I know nothing about shotguns. So what would kind of explain the question? What exactly is this guy asking? What is the question, and why is it even a question?
He's asking about basically loading a 20 gauge load into a 12 gauge shell and firing it through a 12 gauge shotgun. This is birdshot we're talking about. So the mass of the payload that's going down range is measured in fractions of an ounce of shot. And the wad adds some negligible amount to that. A typical 12 gauge load you'll see on the shelf for birdshot, number 7, number 8 birdshot for waterfowl hunting or for clay target shooting, usually about 1 1/8 ounce. Sometimes you'll get 1 1/4 ounce heavier loads to put more pellets down range, but sometimes you'll see 1 ounce loads or 7/8 ounce loads for target shooting. Because again, if you're not trying to take down birds, if you just need to hit a clay target with something to break it, you don't need more shot in the shot column. You just need enough to fill out that shot pattern so that you don't have pellets going past it on either side. I don't know if I really explained that very well, but you do get an advantage in my experience from having the same load in a 20 gauge shotgun because it will pattern wider. I don't know if that has to do with the wad or just exclusively because of the bore diameter. I would imagine it's a combination. but Mr. Nash here asked about recoil. Will the 12 gauge recoil more than the 20 gauge or vice versa using effectively the same load? And I know this gets into bolt thrust, and I don't know how to calculate bolt thrust. I would have to look up the equation, which would be cheating, so I won't do it. I will say, I'm going off of vibes here, which I hate to do. I would imagine the 20 gauge would recoil more because the pressure of gas at the muzzle will be higher, assuming the same barrel length. But I don't think that's a very good answer. So I'm just going to throw that out there and say that as my answer. I really want to hear what the actual answer is, if he has it.
We don't have it. Okay, so but just to recap, so you got a 20 gauge barrel, you have a 12 gauge barrel. Like I said, this is half trivia and half just discussion, just opinion. You have a 20 gauge barrel, you have a 12 gauge barrel. 12 gauge barrel is obviously larger than the 20 gauge barrel. You have a larger diameter. Both guns are the same weight, and we're going to assume both barrel lengths are the same. You have the exact same amount of projectiles in each, and you have the exact amount of powder in each. So same exact load. It's just that one is a bigger diameter than the other. And he's asking, hey, which is more felt recoil? And you're saying that because you have the same amount of stuff, meaning projectile and explosive, going down a smaller channel, that it will probably have more felt recoil than a 12 gauge.
My guess, and again, this is purely a guess on my part, I don't have anything really firm to back it up. My guess is that because there is less volume inside an equal length barrel of a smaller diameter, the pressure of gas at the muzzle when that bottle gets uncorked, so to speak, will be higher, which will contribute to greater felt recoil. But again, that's just a guess. I don't know. If you'd like me to, I can open up a new tab and look up the bolt thrust equation.
No,
but that I think goes against the spirit of the question.
You don't have to do that right now. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting question. I thought it was, why do people, in your opinion, what typically, why would somebody pick in this day and age, if you're going to go out and shoot clays or shoot birds or whatever, or for any reason, why would you pick a 20 gauge over a 12 gauge?
I think you'd probably pick a 20 gauge for really two reasons. One is because you might already have a large supply of 20 gauge shells, or wherever it is you're going, 20 gauge shells are easy to find, so it doesn't make a difference, 12 gauge versus 20. And the second is that 20 gauge loads are usually loaded softer, just because it's a smaller shell, so they put less stuff in it. Now, that isn't a requirement. You can make a really stout recoiling 20 gauge load, but again, usually, as I said a few minutes ago, usually a 20 gauge load will have 7/8 of an ounce of shot, versus a typical 12 gauge load will usually have 1 1/8 ounce of shot. So it's a difference of a 1/4 ounce at roughly the same velocity out of an equal length barrel, meaning the 20 gauge should recoil a little bit less just because you're sending less stuff out there. Now, in my opinion, there isn't much reason to get a 20 gauge in this day and age. In my opinion, because of the greater availability of shotguns in 12 gauge, including youth models with short stocks and a little bit shorter barrels.
You can even buy mini 12s too.
Yeah, and
right.
Because of mini shells and because you can get featherlight target loads.
Yep.
And because 12 gauge ammunition is actually cheaper than 20 gauge last I checked, which in turn is cheaper than 410 for whatever reason, 12 gauge is logistically, it's the 9mm of shotguns, in my opinion.
Interesting. What do you think, Felicia?
So I tried to do a little bit of research, and I wasn't able to find an accurate answer because everybody that attempted to approach the topic always said that, as Sam mentioned, and also the question addressed, is that in this proposed question, you have to assume that each shotgun has the same weight, right? The same design, same build, same weight. all the answers that I was finding is it always mentions the truth of most 20 gauges are going to be built lighter, smaller,
Right.
And they take that into account, and so therefore their answer is, but the question was different. So I wasn't able to find, unless I do math, right? The whole. I did find the equation that Sam referenced, and I looked at it and I'm like, there's no way that I can do that. So I think to get the true answer, you'd have to do the math that Sam mentioned. But I was like, if Sam can't get this from the top of his head, I don't know anybody can.
Sam, what do you
So-
think the point of his question is? What point was he trying to make?
I don't know. I think the point he was trying to make was to get people to think.
Yeah.
But do you think he was? Do you think that he was trying to make the point that I think he was trying to make the point that most people would be surprised that a 20 gauge would have more felt recoil than a 12 gauge. And
Well, that hinges on the assumption that I'm right and that a 20 gauge would recoil more in this hypothetical. So I really don't know what point he was trying to make. I'd have to
right.
know the actual correct answer authoritatively to be able to make an assessment there. Again, my answer was just conjecture. I don't have any proof for it.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, how about next week? Do you want to look it up and have an answer? How long would it take you to get an answer?
Oh, it wouldn't be too difficult.
I've got the
I
equation.
would just
right
have
here.
to look some stuff up.
All right. Well, next week when we talk again, you come back with the definitive answer, and we'll talk about it again.
Well, my trusty TI-84 Plus and I will come up with an answer for you.
And you just put up a blog on Monday, right?
I did, yes. I put up a blog post about firearm manufacturing companies having names of other firearm manufacturers. It's I think it's a little more interesting that I'm making it sound. But for example, I mentioned the fact that Springfield Armory, the company, and the Springfield Armory, the government entity, are two totally separate entities. And I talk about more companies that are like that. And I actually came up with a list of companies that are like that so long that I had to split it into at least 2 blog posts.
Oh, nice. And where do they
Part
find
one's
that?
already. That is at gunownersradio.com/blog.
Okay, cool. All right, Sam, thank you so much. Look forward to hearing what the definitive answer is on which has more felt recoil between the 20 gauge and the 12 gauge with exact same loads and same weight and same barrel length. And so we'll hear from you next week, see what it is.
All right. Thanks for the question. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. Take care.